Hello again, thank you for joining me for another video. So in today's video I wanted to talk about basically triggers and traps. It's life is a little tough right now for a lot of people, and so the collective mood, the people you might run into when you're out and about could very easily trigger someone who has real trauma. And what I mean by real trauma is life-threatening. So if at some point in your life you were in a life-threatening situation, the trauma level there is wired into your nervous system to react anytime something reminds you of the threat, because it's, you know, a survival mechanism. A lot of what we call PTSD is, if we can learn our way out of it, is literally the body's ability to defend itself from future threats. It has changed your nervous system, and it's never going to be the case that you're not triggered by certain things that are life-threatening. And the problem is that modern society today, if your trauma came by way of people, which you cannot get away from, you might find yourself triggered very often and having to use a dissociation and depersonalization narrative to deal with it. It's real tricky. It's real tricky stuff. People don't talk about it. They act like you can get to a spiritual place where your body does not respond. If you're still feeling hunger after enlightenment, you're still going to feel the impact of PTSD after enlightenment, because it is hardwired to keep you alive. These are systems that are autonomic. They're deep within the central nervous system and not, or peripheral, you know what I mean, and not the same level, right, of reactivity to preference, to moodiness, to, baseline human drives, desire, motivation. And I think a lot of times when people talk about PTSD who haven't actually experienced that life-threatening rush of, it's something different happens in your body, especially if you're young, you're going to have more history with it than without it. These pathways in your nervous system aren't easily, nor should they be. Chances are it was a real threat. And that isn't gone. That real threat to your life that happened probably isn't gone. It's probably still in the environment. And so you can remove yourself to some degree, right? But your body knows that threat still exists and is going to respond to it. The whole reason I made the video about PTSD and Kundalini is because everybody was saying that once you experience a Kundalini awakening, and once you experience the taste of divine self and the non-importance to some degree of this play, the idea that this is the only version you come in or will ever come in, or the sense of identity that's attached to the social fabric. They made it seem like once you had that experience, profound experience with the divine, like an avatar could come and talk to you in your room, and if you have PTSD, unless they immediately wipe every bit of the content from your memory, which, why would you allow that to happen? You're still going to react in the same way. You're still going to get hungry and feel the experience of hunger. There's a fundamental difference that needs to be pointed out. And the fundamental difference is that you do not have to fix it, because there are spiritual forces that, if you can just remember they are there, not people, spiritual forces, like the wind is a force, like gravity is a force, like electricity is a force gets awakened. And when you are triggered, if you can just give it a beat, it will come in and help. Call it whatever you want. The name doesn't matter. But you need to rebuild a trust instead of thinking you have to do it yourself. We've been conditioned into a system which requires you to act and puts all the blame on you, individually, identified. And it is the opposite. It is the complete opposite. And there's so much just complete and utter, I don't know what else you call it, but brainwashing, regarding these topics. And on every level, from spiritual people, from psychologists, from the people who claim to be teaching it but have never lived it, from people who think they understand but really haven't been in life-threatening scenarios. I hear a lot of people throw the word or the phrase PTSD around, who have had distressing lives, but maybe not the impact of a life-threatening situation. And so there are shades and gradations, and I'm really, the shades and the gradations, that kind of like, it's not as bad. That group of didn't really have it as bad as they think they did, is loud. And they are so loud that those of us who have been through some of the more hardcore things, and not dead yet, even though, we've basically been left for dead. We're not. That's who I'm talking to. That's where I want to connect my energy to. I really don't have time for people who are living in these essentially idyllic lives, feeling distress and thinking that distress and the coping tools that they have for it is going to help someone who's not dealing with distress, but a nervous system who functions entirely differently than the majority of the people that they're interacting with. I don't know why it has to be this complicated thing, really, honestly. So my point is, there's lots of triggers right now because regular people are triggered. And so they're being mean. They're being meaner and dumber than they used to be. So where you could have survived kind of in the in-between spaces and keeping your head low and trying to avoid people as much as possible, you might still be triggered. They come find you almost. I would literally just walk to the store. This was a few days ago. I was just walking to the store, right? It's such a benign thing to do. I don't like to take my car because I've been in a rollover before. And so I can, if I'm already activated and with some trauma that I can sense in my nervous system, I try to tone down everything I do until it processes out. And so I was going to walk to the store. Someone bumped into me at the store, one of the workers with the big, huge, how Walmart has the people who are shopping for other people. They take up the aisle pretty good. And she ran into me multiple times. And then the way she said sorry was so like, why were you in my way? And don't say sorry if you don't mean it. I said something along those lines like, don't further disrespect me by fake apologizing. That's not exactly what I said, but it was like, are you sorry? Because that doesn't sound real at all. It was something like that. I said, are you? And then that upset her. Hey, lady, man, I'm just shopping here, and you ran into me instead of saying excuse me. So it was uncomfortable when I'm already in an activated state. So I'm like, I guess I'm gonna just go right now. I got enough in my basket. Let's not push the issue, because now I'm even more activated, right? You gotta know your triggers and the level of trigger you can take, and then actively engage in bringing it down. Don't shame yourself, don't guilt yourself, don't fight. Actively bring it back down. And by actively bringing it back down, you do not act, no behavior. It's going to be dealt with, but this is where you take your hands off and trust. You trust the divine, you trust the Kundalini, you trust Kali, you trust your angels, whatever words you want to use for this. It takes care of it. All you have to do is pull back, just enough. So then I was walking home, and the building next door to me, someone was out front with their dog smoking a cigarette, staring up straight ahead as their dog, went ballistic. It wasn't that bad, but I was already activated. So had she moved back 2.5 feet from where I was walking, had she acknowledged the dog who was trying to alert her to my presence, instead of kind of having a little bit of a enjoyment out of threatening me with her dog. And that's what I've been finding over and over and over again in my interactions with people, is that they feel threatened by whatever's happening in their lives and are blanket threatening everyone else. And so as a person with a heightened sensitivity, your nervous system is turned up to threat, you may have noticed this behavior. Tailgating, getting flipped off when you're driving, impatience all over the place. People have kind of lost their ability to be cool with each other. And I don't think we are going to, lecture each other out of this state. I just don't. I think we missed that boat. I think that boat was 10 years ago, and we didn't take that route. And so the place that we're in now, we need to, we're not going to lecture each other out of it. We aren't going to, have a few webinars on the subject and all done. Oh, I didn't realize I was just supposed to be nice to people. And then just tell people, oh, no, you are supposed to be nice to people. And then we'll see a massive shift where once grown-ups are told, be nice to people, then they will. I don't think that's going to happen. That's been really fun to test the theory on. But no. So the traumas and the triggers and the trap. So the trap is to think that you are the one who has to fix it anymore. This is the fundamental difference between being in trauma without a spiritual awakening and being in trauma with, is that there is a support there. There is an extra layer. There is a light that's going to come through. It's going to help. It's like water and light at the same time. And all you have to do is not attach your little spiritual energy fingers into the trauma. Let the trauma wash through. It's still going to come up. You are just not attaching into it and then puppeting your life by way of. And the more times you do it, the easier it becomes to trust. You can trust a little quicker. You cry a little bit for a few less days than you used to. You don't have to go into a 3-month bender trying to process out the emotions. You don't have to call your ex. You don't have to leave. You don't have to pack everything in your car and leave. You can actually just have enough strength. The little mountain Buddha statue within you to hold still while it passes. You don't have to fix it. It gets fixed. It's really hard to trust that in the beginning because you've been through too much and your nervous system wants to do what it always did. So you just hold still. Just enough for it to keep moving. If you stick your little energy fingers into it, you go for another ride. You jump on the boat of trauma and then you go for a ride. You will come back, not the end of the world, but you can lean into trusting that it will pass. And try not to shame yourself, try not to guilt yourself, try not to get baited by people who push your triggers and your traumas. They are sociopathic in a way. There's a lot of that out and about, where people just kind of do not have the ability right now to hold both their own life, which has been flooded with new information that they have to categorize and organize and make sense of, to also hold all the information that is the avatar, that is you, the representation of you, the identity of you, and what you're trying to work with. Triggers suck. What sucks even more is the very small amount of compassion that actually comes to people who have experienced this form of trauma. So, like I said, there's lots of distressing and painful situations in life. The impact on the nervous system from a life-threatening situation, when your life was in literal danger, you were going to die. Somebody had a gun to your head, somebody had a knife to you, someone, was an adult and you were a child. Life-threatening. It's different. It's different than distress. It's different than pain. It's different than, all of the other regular fears, because all of those are still there. You're still dealing with all of that same stuff too, and you can see, right, that people are struggling with it. So give yourself a little bit of some unconditional love here for what you've actually been through, because there isn't a lot of true just like plain old knowledge about it, just like basic knowledge. People don't have a lot of basic knowledge on it, so it's hard for them to be compassionate in that space and like vibe with you there, and like you feel safe because you know that they know how you're feeling. Because a lot of times compassion comes through from people who literally know how you're feeling. They've been through it. They literally know how you're feeling. And then real like flows of compassion can come in that space. Thank God a lot of people haven't experienced that, right? We don't wish bad things on others, and how nice it would be to train them out of it, because their bullies are rampant. So it's really easy to think you understand what someone means when they say PTSD, but I find that it isn't necessarily true that people understand that. Trauma response that is actually hardwired into your system as hypersensitivity to threats, which might be people, which might be cars, which might be like, something that you cannot get away from. So you're always slightly activated and needing to deal with calming the system and rewiring and the fortress of your neural network that prevents it from crushing you. So it's not you fixing it, and you are not required to fix it. Notice it passing by and trust the process of the divine forces and the higher self that you have been disconnected from. Your own higher mind can also have great influence. You don't even have to see this as some external thing. It's just so far removed if you've been living under this blanket of trauma that you may not even recognize it as yourself anymore, coming through to help you. So hopefully this is the words that somebody needed, because I know it's been intense lately. I think I've been under some form of huge triggering attempt to trap me into fixing everything, instead of like leaning back and like I can't decide how my life is going to play out completely because other people are playing in my world, okay? So I can trust instead of needing it to be a certain way. I can tune into the place within me that trusts. And there's a lot of judgment that will come to you for holding a space of trust of these forces. But I'm seeing things get better, and I'm reconnecting and reestablishing connections of trust with the larger cosmos and consciousness. So, hope this helps. All right, until next time. If you happen to watch this whole video, I realize it was a little bit longer than I meant, and I should probably do another one. I did finish my workbook finally. I'm going to put it on my Patreon page for sale between now and then. If you want a copy, I'm giving away some copies. All you have to do is email me. You send me an email, I will give you an ebook for free it's called Art Yoga, A Path to Enlightenment for Traumatized Souls. And it's just an art project and some meditation and a bunch of other stuff. And I'm not a salesperson. I just had a hard life and wrote it. The things that I wish I had known down in an organized fashion that I thought would help people reconnect to their divine self and the flow state. And yeah, so send me an email, and if you want a copy, and I'll give you a copy. I'm giving a bunch away for free because I want to see how people receive it, and after I know how they receive it, then I will know, yes, put it up for sale. So anyways,